Welcome! For those of you who are here returning from any of my other previous videos, thank you so much, and I hope you're enjoying Terry-ble TV. For those of you who are new, welcome to Terry-ble TV. My type of content is all over the place, like television of old. Each channel would have a different story, and I really hope you switch my channels around and see what I have, or will have, to share. And if you do, please like the video and subscribe. I'm not doing this as a business, but liking and subscribing would allow me to get my stuff out there for more to enjoy, or hate, I suppose, which is sincerely what I hope I can do. Now, for those of you who don't know me, you're likely thinking, hey look, he went to a Halloween club and bought an 80s costume. Ooh, how original. Where those of you who knew me in the late 80s and early 90s, I guarantee you're thinking, dude, you still have your clothes? In either case, I really miss these days. Others, I suppose, miss these days as well. There are thousands of videos out there about the 80s, but for me, they never quite capture really what it was like to actually live it. And there are a few feelings that can compare to the rush of heading into an 80s arcade. The brain-scrambling audio of hundreds of games blaring at once. The sight of these hundreds of games flickering about, trying to entice you into feeding them your quarters or tokens. Quite often the smell of hot dogs or pizza cooking up somewhere in the distance. For those of you who can't relate, it may not sound like that big of a deal, but you really had to experience it to get it. Very often looking for your favorite games not by eyesight, but able to hear it ever so briefly behind 50 other games screaming for your attention. Current arcades today, like Dave & Buster's, they really don't compare. There is a atmosphere that is absolutely missing. I can distinctly remember what arcades I used to frequent and which games I would most likely be playing while I was there. Noah's Arcade at the La Mirada Mall. I would walk in and play Missile Command, walk out with a wound on my right hand from my palm being pinched at its rollerball controller. A little bit later in life, I would frequent Showboat in Pointy Hills, and next door to them was Malibu Grand Prix. That's where Ivan Stewart's Super Off-Road had my money every time. For the special party days, I would end up at Captain Andy's Rivertown in Santa Fe Springs. This is where Dragon's Lair and Space Ace first entered the zeitgeist of the arcade tapestry. If you're not familiar, Captain Andy's was essentially a Chuck E. Cheese, but with a dog fire brigade captain instead of a mutated rat. Then, leading up to the end of the arcade era was 1942 in the Santa Fe Springs Mall. It's from here that I would go home many sleepless nights, hearing over and over in my head,
"Help, your life force is running out."
As the arcade scene slowly started to wither away, I was now stuck in local donut shops, Circle K's, or pizza joints, or gateway theaters in La Mirada to get my fix in. These little shops had me with Superman, Shinobi, Ikari Warriors, Kid Nicky, Bubble Bobble, Star Wars, Spy Hunter, and of course, the all-time piece of resistance, Tron. Then of course there were many bowling alleys that were a mainstay for pinball of all fashions, but my personal favorites were Addams Family and Funhouse. That being said, this video could really be called Unintended Consequences. For those of you who have seen my display build for my muscle figures, you may remember I had measured it for a very specific place within my collection room. The problem that has arisen is I love this display so much more than when I initially conceived of it. And now I want it to be more visible in my room. However, where I want to put it, that area is currently occupied by my ever-growing mini arcade. Now this area is getting pretty tight, with games. And I'm not going to be able to acquire too many more before I'm out of room. So a new display needs to be constructed for them to, first, allow my arcade to grow, and two, get my muscle figures flexing where I want them to be. So take a time machine ride with me to the past. You can choose whether it be Doctor Who's TARDIS, Bill and Ted's phone booth, or, of course, Marty McFly's DeLorean, and relive the 80s experience with me while I hatch a new nerdy display that I call Arcade. So once again, I'm starting my project with only a rough idea in mind as to what I'm going to do. Given the content of this project, there certainly could be very grandiose ideas of what to do, but with the rules of my space and the room to be used, I'm going to be fairly limited on the huge scope I could put into this. So it will be a fairly limited design. I could get away with a standard shelving unit, just top, bottom, two sides and shelves across, but I would be very unhappy with that. I want my displays to at least have something special about them, something that makes them pop. So what I've decided is to make the shelves into a gaming cabinet. A cabinet is what you call the outside of a full-size game. Essentially making the supports to match the outline of an arcade game side and front, but still be fairly minimalist on its flashiness. I'm going to make stencils for the parts. I'm going to make two of these ultimately, one for either side of the muscle display, even though now we're just going to concentrate on the first one, but this will allow me to replicate the second one pretty much exactly to the size and shape and everything as this first one. So that will be the first thing, to make the stencils. So let's get to it. will say, working on this project is really making me wish I could visit an arcade again. I wonder if... I wonder. Alright, in building my cabinet, I've been thinking about games a lot, and I've been really jonesing to get into another arcade and try to relive those moments that I did when I was so young. Here in Pasadena, Neon Retro Arcade, I'm hoping it's going to fit the bill. So, what I'll see if I can go in and see if it does it for me. Well, I'm glad some kids are still excited to be here. Come on. 2 seconds in, and of course, I knew where I had to begin. Greetings, programs! Oh yeah, this is hitting the spot. Plenty of old school games, cool old pinball machines. Yeah, this is exactly what I was needing. I think I'll walk around and see if I could guess, based on what people look like, what games do I think they would be playing. I'm wondering if I'll be able to find any that's a pretty dead giveaway. Let's take a look and find out. The arcade, one of the few places you could take mom out with a spinning bird kick and you both laugh about it. The arcade, few places where you could take your sister to the hoops and no one comes out with a bloody nose. Hopefully. Alright, so that was Neon Arcade in Pasadena. If you're in the area, I do say check it out. It is pretty cool. Again, it's not quite the feel as the old school arcades were, if you remember that. It's much brighter. There's not quite as many games, and a lot of the games, the volumes are kind of turned down, so it's not quite as loud as I was kind of hoping it would be for the nostalgia feeling. But good time. Check it out. Fun's over. Time to get back to the display. So this board is actually just kind of sitting on the top of concrete blocks. I need to make it sturdy because with the weight of the stand, it tends to want to tip a little bit. So what I need to do is anchor it with these concrete anchors. Then with this more solid, I could take these female inserts and put them in here so that I can actually screw the stand to this foundation and make it nice and sturdy. Alright, we're in the home stretch now. So, at this point, got some stickers I'm going to put behind the games. By and large, they're probably not going to be too visible. It's more of, really just more of the fact that knowing they're back there than seeing them. But just to kind of give a little bit of a background to the back as if these are the decorations inside an arcade. So, let's start placing them and see how it looks. Well, another display down, or at least 50% down, since I now need to build its matching sister cabinet for the other side of my muscle display. I hope you found this entertaining, or maybe even better, give you motivation to create something for yourself, rather for your collection or just something for around the home. But don't be afraid to let creativity wiggle its way into an otherwise potentially mundane thing. In building this, even at the get-go, knowing it wasn't going to be overly grand, I still had some big ideas as I went along. And although I didn't really get to put them into reality, it was a good time deciding what was enough so that I'd still be happy with it, but what would be too much. I leave you now with 3 things. First, a request. If you would, please comment in the comment section as to what was or is your old school go-to arcade game. When you think about the old arcades, what game fills your mind with images from so long ago? And what is it about that game? Why? 2, I end this video with some images to maybe spark some long forgotten memories, with some titles of games that made the arcade the magical place it was. I hope you enjoy the trip down that path of memory lane. Third, and kind of most important to me, I again want to repeat my grandfather in saying, you can figure out anything you want to in life. All you need to do is just stare at it long enough. Definitely believe that. So, until next time.